Hey everyone, this is Mike, and I'm here with Isaac.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about some video games. More specifically, we're here to talk about some changes in the whole gaming industry. More specifically, I guess it would be two in one topics. One topic is regarding how EA has officially been bought out by a Arabian group, and as well as
Well, more like the Saudi Arabian government. The
yeah,
government's bought out
yeah.
EA.
Well, besides, yeah, that. I mean, I didn't want to make it sound so like that, but yeah, it is true. Yes, Saudi Arabia government has officially bought out EA, but as well as that, EA is now going private. It seems because of this Saudi Arabia government. But along with that, indie game publisher Devolver Digital also wants to go private, which is interesting. And it does speak to the current state of the industry and the direction it seems to be going now. This is a topic that Isaac wanted to bring up, so I wanted to get his thoughts on it early. Just
Yeah, so I thought was very interesting was both of these happening almost simultaneously. Like you said last week, the Saudi Arabia has finally finalized this deal. Now, again, this deal was happening last year. I forgot how much it was altogether. I think was it $52 billion deal, 18 billion. It was I think it was a $52 billion to get the deal done. Either way, it fortunately got it done, and it was kind of interesting to see how all of it was happening, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's the industry. It's yeah, it was a $55 billion cash deal, which I thought. Again, it was interesting to see them go this way. Now, one of the reasons why I think they sat down to kind of go this way was simply to um, have a little bit more control over the development and style of EA. Basically, the ability to go private gives them a lot of leverage. They
mm-hmm,
have they no longer really need to answer to quote unquote shareholders, because at the end of the day they bought out the shareholders right now. Or at the end of the day, it seems like a lot of the shareholders and either a lot of the angel investors have finally just cashed out and be able to move on to get this deal finalized under EA. But again, in retrospect, and if you're hoping for it, the ability to go private would at least give you some of the ability to now be able to create games without any kind of restraint. If this were, let's say, a better publishing company at the moment, you would say that it might be a good deal, because now you have the freedom to be able to create games that you want, and you're not
mm-hmm,
pressured to meet quotas of the shareholders in a great way. It allows them to be able to kind of flex those games. However, because the fact that they are still in $20 billion in debt in
mm-hmm.
order to get this deal done, um, people could argue that in order to be able to make that money back quicker, because now you are no longer a private company, you're not using the public's money or the investors' money to be able to keep things up.
Mm-hmm.
One would argue and say that they would probably end up pushing more towards cash cow games, one of the more staple games, meaning they would lean more into games like Madden, like Football Club, like The Sims,
Mm-hmm.
in order to be able to make that revenue quicker and faster. And, one of the concerning moments is that they would end up turning some of their best products under EA and probably use more moral predatory, let's say, tactics and strategies implemented into this game. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how College Football 27 had monetization in their Road to Glory, which is basically an offline single player game that they were trying to shoehorn certain kinds of monetizations. So, with that all being said, um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in certain companies that you feel that you could trust, if it led to be able to experiment different smaller games to be able to get it out, I would say this would have been a great move by EA. But because they kind of don't want to be bewildered to either mandates, also that they don't have to be bewildered to like the industry mandates like DEIs or any other government things in order to get relief. You know, I think it just leads to practices in terms of who they can hire, who they're not allowed to hire, the moral aspects of it, which is also a big issue. I think we sat down and talked about it. But yeah, I think with EA going this route, um, I'm not too confident with them heading down this down this route, and hopefully getting back to the point they would be able to sit down and make smaller games and industry things. But again, time will tell with EA on that front, and that's kind of what I want to put that out there. So,
Well, for me personally, I've already said a while back regarding the whole Saudi Arabia and the whole buyout is that I'm not really too like worried and concerned simply because, well, for one instance, I haven't played or bought a game from EA in actually well over a decade at this point because they just haven't been making the games I want to play. I used to be big into like the EA sports games like SSX, used to be into like Burnout and Def Jam, Fight for New York. They haven't been making games like that. So I really can't really say much regarding EA and what they put out. They've just been like making again Madden and The Sims and whatever else. It's really just not a big concern for me regarding like what they're planning to if they plan to put out some new games in that like that realm. Yeah, I'll totally be down for like whatever they're up for, but until then I'm just not that like worried about like the game's changing. I know there's a lot of people and a lot of like communities, like especially the Sims community, are very worried about Saudi Arabia now changing the game and removing certain progressive themes out of the game because Saudi Arabia are obviously very against those things. But again, I'm not too sure until it actually happens. I can't really say
yeah,
much until it actually happens. Like it's
yeah, and I think this one people wouldn't worry, but there has I guess there been instances again. Someone has said that there has been an instance where they have meddled into certain companies in order to make certain changes. I haven't really read into it. I should have done more research into that end of it just to figure out what they did. Again, I know that SNK is under Saudi Arabia's now ownership as well now, correct? Again,
yes.
in order to be able to get Goro, Mark of the Woods, or Fatal Fury sequel off the ground. So and I think even a couple of smaller companies, I think like Nintendo and Capcom and other companies have slightly worked with them in some way or have some small partnership
Probably.
in terms of their games and situations. So, in terms of Saudi Arabia deal, I mean that's a complete again, it's completely different can of worlds. We'll see what happens, but based on how EA has moved lately, 9 out of 10 sounds like it doesn't sound great. Where they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna take those properties and those franchises are. So again, but for Devolver, it is a little bit interesting. Again, I didn't even know that Devolver was even a public company actually until I sat down and read a little bit of that
Yeah.
too. And
Well.
for their reason for them to exit in, I guess, the public space, and for them, their reasons why they felt like they were just simply undervalued.
Mm,
That's their quote of saying. Again, there might be a more nefarious reason why they actually probably want to leave. Like you said, you do mention that the climate of the video game industry doesn't seem so well built to maybe staying in the market for them. So maybe in order to be able to keep some of their money and keep some of their earnings. And it really just seems like a lot of shareholders are just seem to exit it out of the game industry altogether because of how
mm-hmm.
bad the market is. So I think that's just simply more of the reason why they're willing to sell some of these companies. Um, I think other than that, do you here's the thing, do you feel like this is now a new path of where maybe the gaming industry is going, where we see maybe a lot more bigger these companies like maybe an Xbox or Sony are going to simply decide that other than layoffs and just removing games? Did they just exit into more of these public spaces at the moment? Maybe not Marvel, maybe not Microsoft or Sony, but maybe for smaller developers that have entered the market. Do you see that as the new trend moving forward?
What you mean? You said you're going into private spaces.
Correct. Yeah.
Confused me. You said
Sorry,
public
I'm all over
spaces.
the place. I'm a little bit all over the place. I apologize for that. Do you see these companies that were originally public go private?
Again, it really depends. Again, it depends on what value this, like, some of these brands have in terms of like what games they're making, that they feel that they could succeed in the private sector without having to use shareholder money, because I totally get the, like, obviously having a bit more freedom to create what they actually want, but is it going to be sustainable enough to not need public funding in order to, like, make these games? Because again, with a lot of these games, especially with the indie scene, a lot of these games are not made for mass consumption. Like, a lot of these games are very niche and designed to appeal to a specific group of people, and that's, while that might be good in like short like doses of like of income revenue and whatnot, that, but yeah, obviously when it comes to like the bigger picture and trying to make a game that's sustaining a company in the long run, again, that's just the issue. That's the pro and con you have to deal with going private and going public. I mean, I'm sounding like a little messy because I'm not an economics.
No, I get it. It is a little bit all over the place, but I do kind of agree with you in that situation right now at the moment. I agree. With a company like Devolver, like you said, it is the games that they make are very quirky and very niche. So again, and I don't know how big Devolver is. It's pretty much a big company. I think they made some big strides when they made the Fall Guys. That was pretty big for a little bit.
Well, they published Fall Guys.
They didn't make it? It was a publisher?
Okay. Yeah. The Devolver Digital is the publisher.
Oh, it's a publisher. Well, I mean, they're a very good publisher that publishes all these quirky style games. It's under their umbrella. So, I mean, but in terms of that, like you said, it's still niche. Still niche no matter what. And
according to like details, like they started out as a private company, and now they want to go back to being. Now they were public for a few years, and now they want to go back to being private. That detail I actually didn't know, but now thinking about it more, it kind of makes sense, because that's where a lot of good. That's what a lot of these upstarts start privately, and
of course
before they go do it. So, I mean, that being said, with that information, I think if a company like Devolver wanted to go back to being private, that might be good for them, because they've already had that experience in the private sector.
Versus a company like EA, which, I mean, maybe back in the day in the 90s they were private. Again,
they were private. Yeah, when they were on Electronic Arts.
Yeah, when Electronic Arts were private until they decided they wanted to go to more public sector and then get the investors involved and all that other stuff, and then you have to sit down and meet quotas. And now they're heading back to it. But I think the difference between, like you said, going back to EA situation, because they have that $20 billion of debt that they still have to be able to collect. Again, with EA, you feel like you don't trust EA in making some of the best moral decisions, or even making good games in general. That you trust to be able to pull that off. Versus Devolver, like you said, they've been in that sector before.
Yeah, and also the time frame between Devolver being in the public sector compared to EA being in the public sector. Like, again, Devolver has only been in it for like a few years, while EA has been in the public sector for almost like well over several decades at this point. So, and obviously when a company is lasting that long, obviously management has changed a lot. Hands. Like, again, top of the corporate ladder, whoever's running the top of the company has also probably changed hands. So their experience with public and private might be different.
I agree. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good catch. A very good catch. So, that's pretty much it. I can't really say pretty much any of that, though. But, again, it's two different styles. We'll see exactly what happens with either game moving forward.
Nice. Well, anyway, that's basically all the details regarding this whole news. What's your thoughts about the whole EA going private as well as Devolver Digital also wanting to go private? Is it something good for them? Is it going to be bad for them? Or do you just not care? Let us know. If you like what we do here, please rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm Mike with Isaac, and we are saying peace.